Alright, is this in the right direction? Looks like it. So we're going to do a question here about two different blocks connected by a string. Hopefully I can get this done. Before the bell rings. So the force here is 100 newtons. We'll make this a 3 kilogram block, and this one a 5 kilogram block. So step one on this example, and this is right out of your notes, I'll post the video below it, is find the net force acting on this. No, step one was draw a diagram, actually. So check, we did it. We got 3 kilogram, 5 kilogram, getting pulled to the right. Step two is find the net force acting on the system. So one thing I like to do to help me remember what I'm working with is I circle them and I color code it as well. So here's the system. I have two blocks, a tension in between them, 100 newtons pulling it. So for this instance, we want to use net force either equals your total force, or you could use your F net equals MA. So those are the only two ways to find net force, and the first thing says find the net force. So we're going to go with total force here because we don't have the acceleration. I know the total mass is 8 kilograms, but I don't know the acceleration, so I can't do it that way. So now I look at the system, everything in here. How many forces are acting on the system as a whole? I've got this one, and a lot of times we want to say tension force, but tension force is an internal force. So it's the same as the little tension forces or the molecular bonding forces keeping this block solid. We're going to ignore those because this thing is just, we're picturing it as an 8 kilogram object moving back and forth. So our net force in this case, very simple, is just 100 newtons. Alright, the next part says find the acceleration of the system. So I'm going to stay with red, and this time I'm going to use F net equals MA. Staying with red because we're doing the whole system, both blocks at once. I found the net force already, conveniently in part 2. I know the total mass is 3 kilograms plus 5 kilograms, so I could solve for A. So I just have to do 100 divided by 8, and my acceleration is equal to 12.5 meters per second squared. And now the last step, which is the trickiest, this is stuff we're doing with the Huskies and things. Find the net force, find the total mass, get your acceleration. The next step is the tricky one. So the next step says, well, find the tension force. So remember, we have a tension force pulling this block. We'll call that Ft. And we have an equal and opposite tension force pulling that block. So it doesn't matter which block we look at. I think the easier one would be this block on the left, because this block only has one force acting on it. So we're only looking at the blue block now because this block has an outside force pulling on it, pulling over here. I'm not including this string connecting them in the object anymore. I'm only looking at that block. So in blue here, I'm using F net equals MA. So my net force here is just Ft because there's only one force pulling it to the side, nothing pulling it to the left. My mass is 3 kilograms. And my acceleration is 12.5 meters per second squared. Grab my calculator. 3 times 12.5 gets me a tension force of 37.5 newtons. Came out positive. I like that because it's going to the right, and that's positive. So that's it. However, just to prove physics still works, I could do it over here and get the same exact outcome. So it doesn't matter which block you pick. So now I'm looking at the green block. I'm going to do F net equals MA, except I'm only looking at the green block now. So this one is a little more complicated because I have one force here and one force there. So I have F plus Ft, and that equals MA. And this is the tricky part. This is the part of the elevator question that we tend to forget. But F net can be two things added together because it's the total force acting. So I substitute in F, they gave me as 100 newtons, positive because it's going to the right, plus Ft, what we're looking for, that equals the mass. And now, key here, we don't want to use 8 again, because if we use 8, we'll just cancel ourselves out. So we want to use, 5 kilograms, because that's the mass inside the green. And then again, my acceleration is still 12.5 meters per second squared. So now I do my multiplication. I do 5 times 12.5. Hopefully I don't run out of room. So I get 100 plus Ft equals 62.5. Subtract 100. Subtract 100. So 62.5 minus 100 in the calculator. Oh, barely fits on the screen, but we're good. Equals negative 37.5. Very, very good. Physics still works. Same exact number. Doesn't matter if we do the blue box or the green box. The only difference is the sign, but it makes sense. We got a negative sign here. This is going to the left. The sign here just means the direction. It doesn't mean we got opposite answers or that physics is broken. So that's an example of how you solve a two-block tension problem. Have a good one. Like and subscribe. YouTube comments stuff.